Hello and welcome to Everyday Petrolhead. I'm your host Terence Anderson, and I wanted to go over some of the issues that I was having with my car related to my brakes and the vacuum pump. So I did some digging and I found out that after a couple of years, the vacuum pump tends to start to leak. This can cause a lot of oil leaking onto the outside of the engine block, as well as oil getting into the pump. Now, interestingly enough, that same oil will go up the vacuum line to the check valve by the brake booster and damage the brake booster, which is something I'm contending with now that might be an issue for me. Interestingly, this problem exists on the E53 model and the E70 model X5. However, the X5 with the E70 models were recalled and the E53s were not, even though it was the same system. So I tried to clean it up, as best I could, get all the dirt and grime off of it, and started to work my way into the pump because I already bought the replacement seals. So at this point, I'm ready to open it up and go inside and see what's going on. And what was interesting was as I started to open it, I started to realize that my pump was one of those pumps that had the leak problem where the oil got all inside of there. That is way too much oil to be in that cavity. So I decided to try to clean it up, clean it out, put it back together, put the new seal on, and see if that would resolve the problem. So that's what it's supposed to look like. It's still a little oily, but that's fine, but it's supposed to be cleaner than that. I started to put it back together, and I noticed there was like a slight crack on some of the mounting, and I figured, it was no big deal. It should be all right, but unfortunately that was not the case, and we'll find out more about that a little bit later on. So buttoned it back up, then decided to try to put it back onto the car, which was a process and a half because where it has to go, you basically can't see it unless you take the radiator out completely. It's really hard to get in there. And as I started to work my way onto there to get it in, I heard a loud snap, which is what I figured would happen since I saw the crack earlier.
Day 2.
Luckily, I was able to rush order a replacement, but as you can see, I tried to JB weld it just to see if that would help. No dice, the crack had went all the way past the seal, and it didn't get all the way in, but this is not a secure unit to actually remount, so I had a replacement unit delivered, and I went about getting that one put onto the car. So unfortunately, it's bye-bye time for the one on the left and hello to the one on the right. So if you look at this opening, this is what you have to get it into, and it is impossible to see from the angle above. So here you can see my view from top down into the engine bay. All right, so at this point, the new pump is on, and this was a fair amount of fighting to get it into this socket because the piece that goes in the center is free-flowing. So, and it's supposed to because, it's supposed to be able to spin without a problem. But the part that it needs to go into doesn't move. So every time I tried to push it on, it wouldn't go all the way in because it couldn't fit right in the little slot. Excuse the dirty engine bay. I've been dealing with a bunch of little issues with this car. Well, some big, but for the most part, we've managed them. So I'll consider this a win because I finally got it in. So now I got to button it back up because I need her to run for tomorrow. All right, so now it's connected. So the next thing is to put everything else back in place. All right, and we're done. She's buttoned up. Everything is in. Put it back together. I decided not to put the cover on top of the engine because I'm still working out a bunch of little issues. And once I'm done doing that, then I'll put the plastic BMW plate back on top. So we're good to go for now, and we'll give it a try. And at this point, everything started up without a problem. The main point of this was to make sure that the pump is not leaking anymore, and to make sure that it didn't cause any vacuum problems within the entire system. So that was all resolved. The engine was running a lot smoother. I still have to deal with the brake booster and the check valve. That's something I'm going to do a little bit later on because the brakes are functioning. They're just not functioning the way I would love them to work. So for the most part, I'll take this and we'll go from there. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time on Everyday Petrolhead. Thanks.